the road and chatting about general things, and then Colin made me aware of something on the road. And then what we seen on the road was this object floating 20 feet above the road. I actually seen the object, my reaction was, what can it be? It didn't conform to any type vehicle, any helicopter, plane, anything I've ever seen before. And I just started to get really frightened.
And what did you see? Is it possible for you to describe it for us?
We saw this craft that was floating 20 feet in the air. The road was 22 feet wide. The craft must have been about 35 to 40 feet wide. I couldn't be specific on the exact size. It had a shape to it. It was had a disc shape to it, but it actually had like 3 mouldings to it, as if there was a pattern. There was a definite outlay. It looked solid and it looked metallic.
Yeah. And what happened to you?
I got really scared. I thought to myself, you know, these things aren't supposed to exist. Knowing nothing about the subject and seeing films, as these gentlemen say, I thought, coming into my head, stupid as it is, I thought monsters. So I panicked. I crashed the gearbox in my car. I accelerated to go underneath the object, which you could start to see the underneath it, you know. As I was going underneath it, it dropped a shimmering curtain of light, basically like the offset channel of a TV, like a twinkling beam.
Yeah.
When we impacted the beam of light, suddenly I'm in my car. I'm thinking, where's Colin? Where's my car? And it's like I'm standing, I should be in my car, I've done that with my arm, no car. I'm looking about, thinking, what's happened? Being there, where in the darkness, I thought, I'm dead.
And then what?
Then suddenly, we're in the car, we're on the wrong side of the road, the back of the car's bouncing about the road, heading up towards the embankment. We headed to our destination. I didn't look back at all. I turned round to Colin because Colin was in a state, because I was driving really fast. And Colin says to me, my seatbelt's off, which was unusual. Colin always wears a seatbelt in the car with me. We got to our destination. I rolled the window down to see if this object had followed us. We both got out of the car, headed to Katrina's door. When we got to Ian and Katrina's, they actually opened the Velux window, looked out, and we told them what had happened. Katrina and Ian, they naturally burst out laughing. But the problem we have with this what took place was, from Edinburgh to Tarbrax is approximately a half-hour, 45-minute journey. We left just after 10. We arrived at Katrina's house at 1:45 in the morning.
Right.
Now, I spoke to Stuart Campbell on this about the missing time, and he says, you must be mistaken. What kind of answer is that for a man?
But do you know what you've significantly missed out? You haven't told us what happened between the time that you hit the light and the time that you were back on the road heading for your friends. What do you say happened in that time?
Well,
that's what I'm
Colin,
doing.
yeah.
Well, it only seemed seconds. I mean, we had no choice in the matter. I mean, this craft, whatever, was there. All we could do was go underneath it. We couldn't go back. There was a bad bend.
But you saw a craft, but did you see who was manning it?
No, it was just like a silhouette, but you could make out the shape.
This is pretty typical of these abduction stories, because...
I'll let a guy finish.
I'd just like to interject.
We'll ask you in a minute.
Just one second, David. Everybody seems to want to hear the
As I
end
say,
of it.
it only felt like seconds.
it only felt like 15 seconds. They both felt really odd after the experience, but after it happened, I mean, we were a bit embarrassed talking about it. Katrina was going to actually phone the police and that, and I says, you know, I mean, you talk about it, it's really embarrassing. I didn't want this to happen in my life.
And do you must be aware that, I'm sure you've told people and they've said, oh, you're off your head.
Well, what I'd done was I got in touch with a man called Malcolm Robinson, who's there, and I got in touch with some other people, clinical psychologists, various other people, to try and find out what happened to me and Colin. It's not something we wanted in our life. It's not something we were ever aware of. It wasn't even our interest. Malcolm explained and actually says that this phenomena happens. This has happened to other people, not just you.
Okay. David.
Two things that have worked for humanity very well for 1,000,000 years have now, in modern time days, gone wrong. Those two things are our imagination, our proclivity to be imaginative, and also, whenever fear and fright and panic comes into things, reality is distorted, and perception of time, perception of space, these are all distorted. We are all sort of, it's kind of genetic, it's part of our evolution, that we need to be, in the past we needed to be very hyper-aware and suspicious and a bit superstitious as well, because the environment was very dangerous. The environment is no longer dangerous, so we're now looking for things, we're so aware, we're looking for things out there to be frightened of.
If you're driving a vehicle at 60 miles an hour, panicking, as you say,